VSiN, the sports betting network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss along with Jonathan Von Tobel in this week for Paulie Howard. He is on vacation. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. Very busy 3-hour program lined up today. Great guests, including Mike Detillier from WWL in New Orleans, coming up in 30 minutes. So what are the Saints going to do at number 9 overall in the draft next week? We'll ask him that. Mia O'Brien, who covers Jacksonville, they're holding the 5th pick. She's on next hour. Mike Paulman studio. And Evan Silva, more NFL draft. He is fantastic on this league with Establish the Run. He'll join us coming up in the final hour of today's show. All right, so I think, the most opinionated piece I've heard so far, or I guess the people who have been willing to share what they think is going to happen with Golden State in the next round is, this is going to be an easy series against Houston. It's an afterthought, right? Well, this is going to be great. We're going to get the Warriors and the Lakers in round 2. I don't know. Is it going to be that easy against the Rockets? And you were showing me right before this program started. I missed this last night. DraftKings open up the series price, Warriors minus 250.
Oh, yeah, baby.
On the road, Rockets home court, and they're the 2 seed, and they match up extremely well against this team. My takeaway, and this is not me overreacting from last night. This is what the Warriors are and what they have been since they acquired Jimmy Butler. By the way, thank God they did. Otherwise, I don't think the Warriors are in the playoffs. He was sensational last night. Curry completely bailed him out and was awesome again. JVT, those two guys are probably going to have to play like that almost every night if they want to advance in the Western Conference playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that worries you about last night, if you're anybody that has anything Golden State related, whether it be fandom, bets, or otherwise, is, as we discussed yesterday, the rebounding is an issue. You're going to come into a lot of games where there's going to be these two things that we can call essentially givens. The Warriors might win the shooting game, maybe, just because you have Steph Curry, but that's not as solid because you have a bunch of non-shooters that are playing around him. And the other given is that you're probably going to lose the possession battle because you're going to give up second-chance opportunities.
Right.
Yesterday, what really stuck out of all the metrics and the statistics and the numbers that came from yesterday's, the offensive rebounding rate for the Memphis Grizzlies in that game was 40.9%.
Wow.
So for anybody who doesn't know, to give it context, that means the Grizzlies rebounded 40.9% of their missed shot attempts in that game. The ranks in the 100th percentile if you're expanding that out. That's an insane rate. You can't continuously get by with doing that. And the thing that doesn't work for the Warriors coming into this series is that Alperen Sengun's pretty big and pretty good. And you know what they've also been doing is they're actually starting to throw out some lineups where they're playing both Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun out there. So if you're going to get a much more skilled big man like Sengun, because I don't know about you, I'm going to trust Sengun with the ball more in his hands than what Edey was doing yesterday at times. But at the same time, you're also going to get a good physical and one of the best rebounders of his generation in Steven Adams. And you're going to both put them out there together, and you're going to go, all right, Draymond and Jimmy, you match up with us. You keep us off the glass. Let's see what happens. And I think that's going to be a problem for them.
It is. And I think they also have a guy who can maybe neutralize Steph Curry as well as anybody in the entire league, and that's Amen Thompson.
Yep.
Right? So, honestly, like if you, and this goes back to everybody just kind of like saying this is going to be a 5-game series or maybe a 6-game series at best, and Golden State's going to go marching on, and they're going to play the Lakers in the second round, and then it's going to be a coin flip game. I would say that people are just automatically assuming because the Rockets, with this core, they've never been there. It's kind of like OKC last year, right? Well, what have they ever done? Their youth is going to come back and bite them. So that's going to be a problem for people who have the strong opinion on Golden State that Houston's way too young. And then the Warriors with Steph Curry, they've won 4 titles. So that they can just basically fall back and rely on that. And and I think, honestly, if you stripped away who these teams are and you took away everything I just said, like the Rockets have never been here, the Warriors have Curry, and they have 4 championships since he's been there. Is there any way you would open up Golden State minus 2 or minus 250 in this series?
No.
I can't imagine a scenario where anybody in the world would.
No. I think it's pretty wild that's what the opener was. And again, I still think minus 200 is too far. When we talked to Jeff Sherman earlier this week and we were talking to him off the air, my initial guess was actually more in the range of minus 130 for the series in favor of Golden State. You figure Golden State would be favored. I think they deserve to be favored given what we know about them. but to this degree, I think is pretty strong. So Rockets on the series price, I think a bet worth making, and then everything from that, right, the derivative market, it's things like that, plus 1.5 games, plus 2.5 games, I think are all, because they're tied to that series price, present some value.
All right, so then the other Western Conference playing game tonight is the Mavericks and the Kings. We'll get into that. Question for you regarding what took place in the Eastern Conference playing game last night. Are we sure Trae Young should be playing in the game for Atlanta when they will take on the winner of the Bulls-Heat game tonight?
What? What do you mean? Are you going to make the old man case that he should be suspended for this game?
I'm saying the way that I'm not. I'm saying the way following this league forever, and what the NBA has done and how they have treated certain players, and for specific actions, and what he did last night. And you know how they never want you to mess around with referees.
Sure.
And he was treating that kid like a little child last night. Kicking the ball so he couldn't get it, spinning the ball so he couldn't. I mean, he was being a complete idiot out there.
That was pretty
Trae
funny.
Young. I mean, would you be stunned? It's to go to the playoffs, so I guess maybe a little bit. But with the NBA's history, would you be completely stunned to the point where you fall off your chair if you said, "Oh, Trae Young's not going to play in the game"?
I would be surprised. I would be very surprised. He was assessed the technical, throwing the ball at the official. I mean, he was giving the ball to the ref in a very aggressive way.
He did like three things.
Yeah, of course. And then, I mean, I actually kind of laughed when he did the fake out where he pretended to bounce it to him and snapped it back. Come on, it was funny. The ref went for it, and he got completely bored.
Well, it also ties into my thought that Trae Young is never going to be a winning basketball player.
I mean, I think that's fair. He's not really great defensively. Either way, I don't think he'll be suspended. I think we would have heard by now if he was going to be suspended. Who knows? Maybe in the NBA, in all of its wisdom, as we know they handle things, especially Silver. I know you've complained about Silver, the way that he's let these players really do a lot in this iteration of the association.
Yeah, with Stern, I don't know. Maybe he's not playing in the game. But I actually had that thought run through my brain last night when he's doing this. I'm like, dude, you might get kicked out of the... Come on.
How about this? Would this make you happy, or would this piss you off? What if they win this game coming up, and then they announce that he's suspended for game one of the playoff series?
Well, that would
against
just be
Cavaliers.
Completely preposterous then, right?
Right.
So
after review, we've decided
the Bulls are now up to a 2-point favorite tonight. By the way, at home against the Heat.
They deserve to be.
You agree with that, right? Okay. Total's also now back on the uptick to 220 in that spot. I asked Jeff Sherman at the Westgate what he would make. Look ahead numbers here. Bulls at Hawks. He makes Atlanta 3.5.
Okay.
Give me Bulls for the biggest NBA bet that I've had the entire season.
Sure.
Heat at Hawks. He makes Atlanta -1.
See, yeah, again, like the thought of, okay, do you think Miami is better than Atlanta? Or do you think, that's the question for both of them, do you think Atlanta on a neutral is better than Chicago?
I don't.
Okay, and so that
right
would
now
tell
I do
you.
Not.
Because, again, I think you're using about 2.5 for home court. It's been what it's been throughout this entire regular season thereabouts. So I'm kind of using that as my baseline. And I'd agree with you, especially if we're right in that Chicago, obviously in that situation, is winning and moving on here in that scenario.
Sure.
Also depends on the degree to which they win and move on. But that just adds another feather in the cap of Chicago, who has been one of the best cover teams in the association since the All-Star break. Yeah. They've been absolutely great. So I would tend to agree with you, especially a number like that, 3.5.
I'll point this out. VSiN.com, click on Tools, go to NBA Prop Analyzer. Tonight, Josh Giddey, he's been a guy that I've been riding with the PRAs now for a long time. He's basically a walking borderline triple-double in every game. Now, he's been a little injured, but he's going to be good to go tonight. It's 38.5. He's 14-5 over that last 19 games. But more specifically, when you look at the current games that Chicago has played against Miami, he had 55 in a big game on April 9th, and he had 48 points, rebounds, and assists in a game back on March 8th. So I think I might dabble with him 38.5 over. Kobe White's been another guy I've been betting. It's down to 30.5 tonight. He was around 31.5, more likely like 32.5, maybe even a 33.5 in recent games. Not quite as hot as Josh Giddey. He also only had 27 against Miami both times in those two games I just mentioned. But the guy you want to look at maybe would be Tyler Hero, because I think this is going to be a Chicago game. Mm-hmm. I like the over. I don't think this is going to be like one of those typical Heat games from the last couple of years where, hey, they're going to dictate and they're going to play great defense. I think the Bulls dictate here and they go up and down the court. And if that's going to be the case, then I think I have to be playing Tyler Hero props tonight too.
Yeah, I think that makes some sense. I think the shot load's going to be there, obviously, as we know, for Tyler Hero.
Yep.
In terms of volume and what they're going to have. In their most recent matchup, he had 26 shot attempts. So there's going to be a high volume of shots for Hero in the way that this team is really built. I would tend to agree with what you look at for Hero. That was the one guy that I was gravitating toward here. And I agree, too. I mean, we talked about this yesterday and pushing back on this thought that these games are maybe going to be unders. We'll talk about the other game later. That one has cratered in terms of that total as well. But I think there's an argument to be made that the market's overvaluing these scenarios when you're talking about the playoffs, the slowed down pace. Now, the argument is different today, where we've talked about this is elimination now. This is win or go home. Mm-hmm. So maybe that does slow you down a bit in terms of deciding how this game is going to be played out. But I would tend to want to push back on the market, pushing these down that far. And at least in the second game yesterday, we saw them get burned. That game went over. It went over from the opener all the way down to as low as
you like the over. You said that over and over on the show yesterday.
So I think that maybe, again, especially with the Chicago team, there is going to be some variance built into this, but they take a ton of threes. And if they're going to be hot tonight at home, shooting the ball, you're going to get a lot of three-point makes to potentially get this under over a low total that's gone under in terms of the way it's been bet.
I'll tell you one thing that was good to us last night, the Zach Edey rebound prop. That was a fun one. I was a little bit worried because he had
me too.
6 in the first quarter, 9 at halftime, but they called him for a couple of ridiculous fouls in that game.
Yep. Did Draymond draw the stupid foul on him too at the top of the key? Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So dumb. But I mean, that's the way they call games, and I thought that they just some of the calls that Curry got last night. That's another fear that I have for the Rockets and betting them in that series price against Golden State. Oh, yeah. What kind of whistle will the Rockets get?
Because they're going to want to play physical. They're going to want to be up in that jersey, and depending on how these games are played and what officials are going to be on, that is going to play a massive role.
Do you have a best bet for tonight?
Tonight? I mean, outside of Bulls money line.
You made the Bulls money line earlier in the week, but have you added anything since then?
I do like the over in the game later tonight as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. JVT, he's in for Paulie this week. Up next, we will update the MLB scoreboard and tell you what we're looking at today across that sport. Every team in action yet again.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big. We go all night. And here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
On the next A Numbers Game, it's Thursday. You know what that means. Zach and Craig. Zach Cohen talking NBA playoffs with us and a little tennis on the clay out in Europe. Plus, unscripted with the Crackman, Bill Krackomberger, though not in studio, coming to us from South Carolina today. Anything that's on his mind in the betting world. And the NFL draft is but 1 week away. Luke Swain joins us. Vegas refund with all of his draft thoughts and bets. It's A Numbers Game. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, right here at VSiN.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We will get into today's Major League Baseball card coming up in a second. Quickly, I want to go back on this Heat-Bulls game for tonight. When you look at history, I know you like to look at this, right? How point spreads, totals may be changed over time.
Sure.
When these two teams played on April 9th, Miami was -2, 227.5 at Chicago.
Yeah.
The Bulls won 119 to 111. A month ago, the Heat were -5, 225.5 at home. Bulls won 114, 109. February 4th, Miami was 3.5, 228.5. Bulls won 133 to 124. So the Heat were favored by a minimum of 2 points. That was in Chicago, all the way up to 5 against this team. Bulls might have their number, too. They beat them all 3 times.
Yep.
But now the point spread, again, has swung in their favor here.
The Bulls are, I think, deserving of being upgraded by quite a bit.
I would, yeah.
I think the market's kind of missed the mark on the improvements that the Chicago team has made, or at the very least, it has very much undersold what this team has been, which has been a pretty solid young group with some veteran players that mixed in there, but they've been great down the stretch. I mean, you see the difference in the ATS records just as a whole there if you're looking up at VSiN.com. The team has really, I think, been undervalued, as we can kind of see in some of these numbers. So the swing, usually I'll probably go like, all right, why did we swing this far in this direction?
Sure.
The obviously one of the big ones in recent note, not to bring this up again, but the Auburn-Florida game, right? Where you talk about Auburn closing 10 and then swinging all the way to the point where on a neutral, Florida's a 2.5-point favorite. An upgrade was warranted. The question is how much was it warranted? And this, I think, too, this warrants an upgrade. The
example I always think about in the situation, SEC title game a couple years ago, Georgia was 7 against Alabama. Bama smoked them.
Mm-hmm.
They met again in the national title game. And Georgia was, 3.5 in that game, if I recall correctly? Yeah. And they killed Alabama. It's like, well, they just played. Alabama beat them. Now it's down to 3. I don't care. I'm still going to take them to win again. Nope, it completely flipped.
And I wanted to get this number right. Since the All-Star break, Chicago, as we have noted, 17-10 to end the season, they led the league in spread differential, how much they covered by. They doubled up the second-place team.
Is that right?
They covered by 8.3 points per game, according to Cleaning the Glass. Second-best team was Portland at 4.1.
Okay, all right. And the other game, can you go back and look at anything here between these two teams? Because they're completely different than what they were throughout the season. I did go check out the box scores. The Kings were 2 at Dallas back on March 3rd. They won 122 to 98. Monk played in that game. They did not have Sabonis. There was no Anthony Davis, and Kyrie got hurt like 9 minutes in.
Yeah.
So throw that game in the trash. If you want to go back to February 10th, the Kings won that game in overtime. It went over 239, but it was not going to go over that number without overtime.
If I remember correctly, I think the Kings, one of those teams had to make like a furious comeback to push overtime, if I remember that game correctly.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. In that game, Sabonis had 16, 15, and 8.
Yeah.
DeRozan had 42. Irving had 30. No Anthony Davis.
Yep.
So forget about even, it just got to be, okay, what do we have tonight for the current parts, and then let me go to work on the point spread. But you like the game to go over.
Yeah, I just think, again, like I'll buy low here. Again, this opened 223. We're down to 213 and a half.
9.5-point move?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's really, really strong. And I get it. Look, again, the question becomes, does this get some of these Game 7 type of games? And for those who maybe don't remember, like Game 7s are archaic. Like those who scream and cry for yesteryear in basketball should love some of these Game 7s because they're slow, they're grinders. It's like 92 to 89. It's disgusting. I don't know if this is going to be the case. I think both teams can have some success here and at least get over a number that has now been bet down nearly 10 points across the board. Some spots are showing 213. We still got plenty of time until tip-off.
Does it keep going down?
So that's the question, is this the low point? I'd venture a guess we're going to get some buybacks at some point.
Very soon, probably.
But the question is, when does it come?
Right.
Are those who are waiting to buy back, like me, are you going to wait till this dips to 212.5, or is that going to come, in the next in the next hour or so? I'm going to be very curious to see if that's going to be the case. But I'm willing to bet this total does not close lower than where it's at right now. It either closes here or slightly higher, maybe 214.5.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, Major League Baseball today, 5-day games. One just started. That's in San Diego. We'll give you that coming up in a second. 4 games are in the books. All 4 games under the total.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. Toronto 3, Atlanta 1. That was the return of Spencer Strider. He was fine.
Yep.
Just the offense yet again for Atlanta could do nothing. And Chris Bassett, tip your cap. He was fantastic. Milwaukee beat Detroit 5-1. Minnesota right now in extras just took care of the Mets 4-3, and St. Louis over the Astros 4-1. at Petco, bottom of the first, no score, Cubs San Diego. Now, people might hear this and think, well, 4-0 to the under. That means I need to bet the rest of these games on the card tonight under. They're not correlated. It has nothing to do with each other.
You mean the game in Baltimore isn't tied into
correct.
The game in Milwaukee? Huh?
I love it when people do that on social media. Look at this. Games are 4-0 to the under today. We got 8 more to go tonight. Let's bet them all out of the under. It has nothing to do with it. So, home run props last night, not great. Horseshoe up my ass, like you said in the show, not so much.
Good.
It turned rusty very quickly. So, hit the first one of James Wood after that 0-9. So, as I explained, if you were listening earlier in the week.
What was Wood?
He was 7-1, I believe.
Okay, but still, like to your point of your exercise here, so if I'm doing my math correctly, you had 9 total, and you only hit 1.
Yep.
But he was 7-1, so we down like 2 units.
Well, like playing these for like a quarter unit each.
Sure, but
so,
like for the exercise, down 2 units, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
All right, yeah.
If I would have had 1 more, it would have been okay.
Sure.
So again, either this is going to be, it could be super profitable. I doubt it, but if it is, that'd be awesome. Otherwise, this could flame out and crash and burn big time because it's very difficult to cash home run props. I'm on a bunch of guys today as well. Although the prices were really factored into some of these ballparks, some of these pictures going, and maybe even some windy conditions. But I will point out, you want to get involved at all with your Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They're taking on Patrick Corbin tonight.
I hate that name.
So it is Patrick Corbin Day.
Okay.
Okay, so you followed this team for a long, long time. Sorry to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
If I gave you $100 and said, tell me how many home runs J.D. Davis has against Patrick Corbin, if you named it correctly, I think you might need like 10 guesses.
Yeah, I would have no idea.
J.D. Davis has 4 career home runs.
Really?
Against him.
Now, baseball's so weird.
But also, he spent, time with the Giants, I think, is where he's probably hitting those home runs or whatever. 11 of 40 career 4 home runs. But I looked at betting some Angels today. It's Corbin. The guy's a gas can. So you can't bet these guys at plus, like, Ward, I think, is 3-1 to hit a home run tonight.
Yeah. By the way, the Rays lost again yesterday with these weird trends that we have.
15 straight. Yeah. Gotta love it.
On the 15th.
On tax day.
Here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to make the case. Corbin was bad last year. He wasn't as bad as it was made out to be. And near the end, he actually had quite a few like decent starts in which he would give up like 1 earned run. And then in the first 5, they would lose 1-0, and everybody would be like, ha-ha, fade Patrick Corbin, this is great. Like, well, no, the Nationals just kind of stink.
Yeah, right.
And this isn't really going for you. And some of the underlying numbers would point to that, right? 5.62 ERA, 4.41 fielding independent from last year. I want to specify that. In his first start this year, though, he was terrible. So I do wonder if maybe this is like a bridge too far when you're talking about wanting to fade this guy actively. But here's the thing. Not only has he stunk, Soriano's been great. So if you're going to go with the Angels and go with the fade Corbin Day, you also get the added weapon, if you will, of getting Soriano on the hill, who has been really solid so far this year. 2.70 ERA, 3.30 expected ERA. The strikeout numbers better than it was last year. He's not given up a ton of long balls. He did give up a couple in the matchup to Cleveland in that matchup out there in Anaheim. But I think that he is a dude for this team. Given the offensive backing he should usually get because this is a good lineup, he's a guy that I want to follow pretty routinely.
Okay. Yeah, I like him. I brought that up to you the other day. He feels like he's turning into kind of a true ace.
Yeah.
Right? This is right up your alley. The Giants take on the Phillies. Wind is blowing out tonight, but it's going towards like first base. So don't look too much into that. Robbie Ray, right? 2.93 ERA. Looks great. The FIP, 5.83. Philly and independent. So that's a truer number of what it's been like. One of the reasons why. The BABIP, batting average of balls in play, 167 on a 59% fly ball rate. He's allowed 3 home runs. And Aaron Nola, who is going tonight for the Phillies, he's allowed 4 home runs, the 5.51 ERA, 5.23 FIP. We could see some runs in this game tonight between these two guys.
Yep, I would totally agree, especially when it comes to Ray, because the problem with Robbie Ray is he's always been a dude that has had issues with command.
Oh, for sure.
He's always been a big walk guy, but he balanced it out because he was a really dominant strikeout dude. You can walk a lot of guys as long as you're going to mow down batters and not allow them to make contact or, of course, get on base. Problem is his swing and miss numbers across the board are down in a really big way. Chase rate's down. He's in the 42nd percentile, 46th percentile whiff rate. Obviously, the K rate's way down, too. It's really worrisome that he's going to continue the command issues, but also not generate swings and misses.
Yeah.
Definitely worth going against him for sure.
Totally agree.
Yep. Hey, new users over at First Bet, if you use the promo code VSiN200, you're going to get a $200 sign-up bonus. That's First Bet, the number one, stbet.com. You sign up now, use the promo code VSiN200, and claim your $200 sign-up bonus today. Come on, try it out, and bet on the ponies over at firstbet.com.
We should also get runs tonight in this Rays-Red Sox game. It's a really bad pitching matchup, and Zach Littell is going for the Rays. He's allowed 5 home runs on the year. The ERA is 6.88. I guess when you look at the FIP, much better, 3.7 plus on that.
Mm-hmm.
Winds are blowing out a little bit to right field for what it's worth, but also the Rays offense I think will be able to hit tonight as well. So I think both those games featuring teams out of the American League East tonight, we're going to get some runs. Mike Detillier, WWL in New Orleans up next. Is Shedeur Sanders the pick at number 9? If not, who is it?
To the Derby, playoffs to the draft. We have your summer covered with a VSiN Pro subscription for just $59 until August 1st. That means expert picks for every major event, exclusive betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, as well as betting guides for the Kentucky Derby and the NFL. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe for just $59 and join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We get the NFL draft a week from tomorrow already. Boy, this is sneaking up on us. And we head out here to the Progressive guest line. Mike Detillier joins the program now, one of my favorite guests we've ever had on the show, and he's been on several times. WWL in New Orleans, also saintsreport.com, and he's been covering this for several years in that area. Mike, thanks for the time today. How are you?
Yeah, you can say it. It's 40 years, so I'm good.
I don't know if you wanted me to say that long or not, but
no, that's
okay.
Fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Very good. Well, I love your knowledge and your history of this as well. So let's before we get into what the Saints might do at number 9 overall, I will give you, for the sake of this segment, full control of the first overall pick and Tennessee. What would you do with that pick?
At first, I'll be honest with you, I thought they'd trade that pick back. I thought the Giants would make them a deal, and the Giants would move to 1, and the Titans would pick 3, and I thought Abdul Carter would go 2. But I think they've made up their mind, and you got to be able to sell. Now you got a new stadium going up in Nashville, and you have a coach that is offensive-oriented, has dealt with the quarterbacks. You got to go with Cam Ward here. I saw Cam Ward as an 18-year-old at Incarnate Word. I'm standing on the sidelines as they're playing Nicholls State, which is in Thibodaux, Louisiana, not far from my home. And so I got to see him play as a true freshman. And I told Coach Rebo, who was the coach at Nicholls at that time, you ain't got to worry about playing him no more. He ain't going to stay too long at Incarnate Word. And, he stayed a couple years there, and then he goes to Washington State. And then, you could see last year with him, he really carried that team. He's a tough guy. He's, at this point in time, not the most mechanically sound quarterback. He's an arm thrower. I mean, everything is from that rifle that he does it. He's fearless out on the field. He'll take chances, but he's accurate. He's a leader. And when all the chips are down, he's going to make some plays for you. So if I'm the Titans at this stage, and I get it, and I think there's some ownership pressure here too, Cam Ward, Miami, Florida.
Okay. So then how do you think it's going to go after that then? Does it go Hunter 2, Carter 3, or do you have those guys reversed?
No, I got Travis Hunter going 2. He's my highest-rated player in this draft class. And I play him on offense. I'm a little bit different than most. That sounds like, hey, you don't have a lot of defensive players. Here's my thing about Travis Hunter. He put the ball in the end zone, okay? And he is a threat every time he touches the ball. He reminds me a lot of, and I got to see him here at LSU before he went to the pros, Odell Beckham Jr. If there's a comp, it's him as a receiver. Wow. He reminds me a lot of Odell. As a big play guy, and he's being able to get the ball in between arms and hands, and he comes down with it. The 3 spot's interesting because the Giants seem to be that's an area where they do have some talent, but unless somebody makes me a Godfather offer, I have to go with Abdul Carter at 3.
All right, Mike, so I'm curious. Mitch and I got into an argument yesterday. It was very heated about Travis Hunter and his ability to stay healthy if they're going to put him on both sides of the ball. Do you think he can do that? Can he withstand that barrage of snaps in the NFL?
Yeah, I think he can. And what I would do is I'd play him full-time as a receiver, and I'd put him as my nickel back. I think that he could do that. Now, again, how many snaps is he going to play? That remains to be seen. But his ability to make a play with the ball in his hands, why would you just use him now and then? I'm not in here for video games. I'm in here to win games on the field. And I would play him full-time. I think he'd be ideal as a slot receiver. He could also play as the Y. Now, all these teams today, they 85% of the time play 3 receivers. But I would certainly put him at wide receiver first, because I think that's where he makes the biggest impact. And I do think he can hold up, and I play him in the nickel position.
All right, very good.
On defense.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Mike Detillier, WWL in New Orleans, also SaintsReport.com. So let's go to that team then, the Saints. What are they going to do at number 9? So much chatter about it's got to be a quarterback now. It's going to be Shedeur Sanders, who's probably going to be on the board. Do they take a flyer on Jackson Dart that high? What are your thoughts on all that?
I'd be shocked if they pick a quarterback at 9. I think they don't have anyone quarterback-wise other than Cam Ward ranked as a top 15, 16 player. And I don't think they're going to risk that. And so, for this football team, you could check off a lot of boxes. Tyler Warren from Penn State would be a guy that would be a great fit. Certainly they could use an edge rusher that they don't have. And what happens if Will Campbell tumbles? There will be one player in this draft kind of alignment that moves down and you'll have one guy that's a surprise pick. What if it's Will Campbell? If it is, I would play Will at left tackle. I think that's his natural position. All this stuff about arm length and all that's a bunch of horse hockey. That's for the nerds of the world. And then I'd move Fuaga back to right tackle. And you've got your 2 tackles set up now, and that's been an area of weakness for this football team along the offensive line. So, but looking at it, if Tyler Warren's there, he's a tough pass because of his versatility to play tight end, also play out wide as a receiver. They don't have a big man receiver on this roster today. And then I would look for them quite possibly with that second round pick, or even if they have to move up a little bit to get a quarterback. But I do not see them taking a quarterback at 9.
Wow. Let me run this by you then. I've also looked at a lot of mocks lately who have the Saints drafting, trading back actually, and then like maybe picking it like around 12th or something like that. What are your thoughts there?
They have not done that under Mickey Loomis. Mickey has always, him and I've talked about this, about trading back, and he said you're trading for a lesser player. Unless they're fixing to give you a bucket load of picks. And in this draft class, you're not going to get that. Okay? You might have been able to get it a year ago. You're not going to be able to get that this year. I think they really like that 9th overall pick. And, you and I have talked about this in the past. There's always one guy in that top 10 that slides a little bit and one surprise pick. Okay, nobody was picking Michael Penix Jr. to go as high as he did. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about all the quarterbacks going in round 1, but I'd have never thought Penix is going to go that high. And you had an owner get involved, okay? Arthur Blank is the guy that made that decision. So I think, again, you will have that same scenario happen here for New Orleans at 9. There will be one out-of-alignment pick that throws you a real blue chipper there at the 9th position. I think they stay there.
Mike, you say that maybe in the second round they go quarterback. Is there a quarterback you think they would like in that range that they expect to be there?
I know they like Jalen Milroe from Alabama. And when I think about it, the comp would be, he reminds me of Jalen Hurts when he came out of Oklahoma, not out of Oklahoma, but out of Alabama. There's a lot of similarities in the two guys. Milroe's a stronger runner. Milroe, he got some speed. And if he goes into College Football's Hall of Fame, all they got to do is to get them 2 games that he played against LSU, and they would vote him in tomorrow. I mean, even if they were playing two-hand touch. Now, his good games look good, and his bad games look awful. But I think he's a guy that Kellen Moore has had some experience working with. And one thing with Milroe, hard worker, leader, and you could build some packages in year 1 where he's not expected to be a starter and use him, I don't want to say Taysom Hill-like, but in that manner. And the Saints have done a lot of that with Taysom, using him all across the board.
Yeah, well said. Great stuff here. Final minute, Mike. And that is, it's Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. You had an interesting theory on Arch Manning. A lot of talk about, hey, just be bad this year. We've had that conversation. You'll get Arch Manning next year. What are your thoughts on that?
Tell me the last Manning to come out early. Okay, everybody thought Peyton was going to do it, and he didn't. Everybody thought Eli might. He didn't. So what would you think that the chance Archer's going to do it? He's not leaving after his junior year at Texas. He's got 2 years there. And look at NIL money that he's getting at Texas. Okay, it's not the bundle that he would get in the NFL, but I would be absolutely shocked if Arch Manning left after the 2025 season at Texas. I think he plays 2025 and 2026 at University of Texas.
Wow, that is awesome stuff. Follow Mike on X. He's at Mike Detillier, WWL in New Orleans, SaintsReport.com. Join us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Thanks so much, sir. We appreciate the time as always.
Thanks a lot, guys. Y'all take care.
VSiN.com/subscribe. $59 gets you everything we do through August 1st, folks. Make sure you check it out. You get the daily best bets email, the betting splits from Circa and DraftKings and more. VSiN.com/subscribe. Take advantage of our summer special.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Join Matt Brown and Mike Somich on Ready, Set, Bet as they get you ready to make your bets for all the weekend games.
We're going to be at the end of this thing with money guns, or I'm just going to be like, begging people for change out on Fremont Street.
It feels like the Twins and the Guardians have higher floors but lower ceilings.
Don't miss out on crucial advice for live betting once the game starts, as well as looking ahead to the upcoming action. Tune in to Ready, Set, Bet, weekends at 1 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
I feel like we have a lot to unpack there with that conversation from Mike Detillier. Again, he's been on this show several times over the years. I love the dude. He's an awesome guest. He's been covering this, event and college in the NFL for, he said it on the air, 40 years. So a long, long time with WWL in New Orleans, saintsreport.com. By the way, if you missed it, you can always go back and watch replays of every show here on the VSiN Watch app. You can get it on your Apple App Store or Google Play Store today. Couple things here. So he basically said the Saints are not taking a quarterback at number 9.
Correct.
He was also very strong on that off the air before we brought him on.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's not happening. They're not taking a quarterback.
That was a bunch of horse hockey.
They're right there, son. Lots of horse hockey. He also, great point, because again, more and more mocks have them like trading back with a team like, let's say, Dallas, so they can get up and take a wide receiver or fill in the blank with whatever team. And he flat out said, I know Mickey Loomis. He's the GM here. And he does know him quite well because Mike does a show with Bobby Hebert, the former Saints quarterback. So they're obviously piped in completely to the organization. And Mickey Loomis told them we're not trading back for a lesser player, and they've never done that before. Never. That kind of tells you then in a weaker draft, when you keep hearing that over and over and over again, okay, what he's saying there makes a lot of sense. And if they don't like a quarterback, I looked during the break, the first name he brought up was Tyler Warren. So the Saints to take a tight end is 20-1 right now at BetMGM. That's one conversation with one guy. He also threw out other positions and other players' names. It doesn't mean it's concrete, but 20-1, you and I said, that's worth a little bit of pizza money.
Sure. Well, especially if you're under the belief that he is correct when it comes to their stance at quarterback, then this market's mispriced because the top two choices are quarterbacks for them. Shedeur Sanders and Jackson Dart. So you can look everywhere and maybe find somewhere else where they would want to go or something that is realistic to happen at that position. But I agree. I just agree with the total premise of, look, man, if you're not sold on the quarterback, why put yourself in position and be forced to play a guy for 4 or 5 years and try to see if he's the guy?
Yeah, I love that.
When you play a first-round pick.
I think every team in the league needs to think like that, and they just don't.
Yeah. Just go and take your lumps and let's see what happens and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And see if you can maybe get another crack at it in the next year. But roster build is important. And it's not like when you pass on a quarterback to go in a different direction, you're screwing over your team because then you're using that pick on another player who can help you at another key position.
You're spot on. Roster build, 2 key words right there, roster construction. It's also why I think you and I are on the same page. I don't think the Raiders go Genti at number 6.
Oh. I think they shouldn't go Genti at number 6.
That's okay. Let me rephrase that.
I also, as somebody who has done it part-time and covered the team and heard a lot of what they have said the last few years and just kind of getting the vibe of what that team is, it would not shock me that they believe themselves to be closer than what they really are, and thus would draft Ashton Genti at number 6.
This comes down to who's going to have the power.
Yep.
How much the new GM Spytek, how much will he have a say in it? How much is it going to be Tom Brady? I don't think Pete Carroll's going to have the overwhelming amount of say here. I think he's going to be in the background and probably shaking his head or I got 5% say here, whatever it is. But Spytek did make comments a month ago, basically what you just said. Roster construction is very big.
Yes.
And that tells me, I think Genti can be incredible at the next level. Who doesn't? The guy's unbelievable when you watch his tape. Does that mean he's going to go to the Raiders and have an impact with some of these other, a Christian McCaffrey type? Not necessarily, because their offensive line, is it really set up to have this guy break free for 1,500 yards in his rookie season? I say unlikely.
No, and because that's the thing. Mina Kimes had a great quote the other day when they were talking about this, and it came up to Genti, and it was look, and I'm paraphrasing, good running back play does not make bad offensive line play better. That just does not work. And so with an offensive line that was part of a group, for the most part, that remains intact from last year, that was one of the worst run blocking units we saw last year and has historically poor numbers when you're talking about the rushing offense last season.
Right.
Ashton Genti's not dragging that offense out of the mud and getting it to even average. A running back cannot have that kind of an impact. And I always call it running backs are luxury picks. I'm not going this whole, you can't take a running back in the first round. You can if you're a team that is built in a way that can use that to accelerate what you already have going. Raiders aren't there.
Recent example would have been the Detroit Lions a couple of years ago.
Of course.
They were built. They had what appeared to be one of the best young offensive lines in the entire league. And they thought, you know what, we can maybe take a guy here at number 12 overall, and Jahmyr Gibbs, and he can make our offense that much more dynamic. That pick was unbelievable. There's no way you could argue that was a bad pick by the Lions, but they were set up for success already with how the team was constructed. And also, like, Genty could be like a Saquon Barkley type. Odds are that was never going to work in New York. But he goes to Philadelphia with that team around him and that offensive line and the other offensive playmakers that they have. And guess what? It worked wonders, and it was brilliant.
But you mentioned McCaffrey. I would also just point this out. Christian McCaffrey, the first year there, if you go back, I think he was drafted in 2017. They went 11-5. They made it to the wild card round. Every year since then, they have won single-digit games, so they didn't do anything. And obviously now we know he is on the San Francisco 49ers. But my whole point here is look at Saquon Barkley, look at Christian McCaffrey. Two incredible players with their first teams. Those teams achieved nothing because they were not built correctly around those guys.
Right.
Saquon got a playoff win with the New York Giants, as we saw a couple of years ago, and that's it. And as we just mentioned, Christian McCaffrey lost in the wild card round, and that was about it. Actually, I don't even think, I believe he was there that year, if I remember correctly. Regardless, afterward, it was nothing.
But I would also say that the Niners trade for him was, who's going to argue that it was phenomenal? Mm-hmm. It clearly worked out, and it was an awesome, and they should have won a Super Bowl. They didn't. They easily, but that also tells you that the success of this team and that window that they had, I think, was made even greater because of acquiring Christian McCaffrey.
Yep, and McCaffrey was on that wild card team, and then eventually just went on a team that was winning 7 to 5 games every year.
Yeah, more draft talk. Mia O'Brien, 10-10XL in Jacksonville coming up at the top of the hour. You found some very creative NBA props markets here for the playoffs. And you attacked this last year, and you can find some angles with this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I think they're a lot of fun to look at when you're talking about teams or players to lead these series in respective statistical categories. Now, I would say this with our limited time because we can get back to this. The one I think that stuck out to me was the Pistons and Knicks series. If you look at the way that the Pistons are potentially going to defend the Knicks, specifically Karl Anthony Towns, those Pistons bigs were not closing out on Cat at all. They were just letting him run pick and pops and get open looks from beyond the arc. He had some pretty good shooting games for the most part, especially from a percentage standpoint because he was getting some open looks. You can find Karl Anthony Towns at 12-1 to lead that series in three-point makes.
Okay.
I don't think that's the craziest thing in the world given the way I think the Pistons are and showed how they defended Karl Anthony Towns in that regular season match.
That's a great angle.
Yeah.
I love hearing. So the biggest competitors to him for that market, Malik Beasley, obviously, was one of the highest volume three-point shooters in the entire league this year for the Pistons.
$2 favorite.
Okay, and then how does it fall behind him?
So Malik Beasley's minus 200. Jalen Brunson is 8-1. OG Anunoby's 9-1. Tim Hardaway Jr. is at 11-1. And then you get to Karl Anthony Towns at 12-1.
Hardaway's been chucking a lot lately.
Yes. I mean, that's what he does. And again, this is the long shot for the reason, but especially if, and this is my angle too, if you're somebody who believes this Knicks team can win this quickly, Cat, I think, has a little bit more value to that as well because he is going to be a piece that is, I think, going to be pretty big. It's also why I think at 3-1 to lead the series in points is actually pretty interesting for him too.
The one that stood out to me last night when I was looking, and we will expand on this in the second hour of the program because there's a lot of good stuff here that you can find. In the Lakers T-Wolves series, right, it's the player to lead that series in rebounds. It's Rudy Gobert, and he is heavily juiced. He was also heavily juiced last year, Western Conference Finals, when Luka led that series in every stat category imaginable. He's the first guy to ever do what he did in a series. Luka's like plus 650 most rebounds.
Yeah.
Like if I told you right now he's going to average 10, first of all, you'd say, okay, that's no problem. He can average 10. Would 10 be enough to beat out Gobert in a series? Or will he need to average 12, 13, 14 boards?
No, because here's the other factor about this, too, that plays into your favor. What if Gobert gets benched multiple times?
And that's happened, like we talked about yesterday.
If they can't find any defensive play sustainable because they're playing a 5-out team, and then Gobert's minutes get cut into, it's one of the props that I liked last year in the finals was Jaylen Brown rebounds over Daniel Gafford for the series. Because part of my logic was, well, Gafford's going to get benched. Like, Lively's the better player. He's playing more minutes than him. He's probably not going to have a space in this series. It ultimately played out. I think it's something worth looking at, too. Like, look at the way these things break down, these matchups, and how this is going to go. Because eventually you can find some of those where you'll find, all right, this guy might have his minutes cut into, things like that.
Beautiful. We'll do more of that coming up in about 20 minutes then.
Yep.
You got a ton of them. Okay, very good.
All right. Folks, good thing to check out here with the Masters Pass. Our partner, ProfitX, has a lot going on here. Peer-to-peer sports exchange available in 40-plus states. Baseball is the one you want to check out here. You're going to be able to make sports picks against other groups of fans rather than against sports books. Exchanges guarantee you the best odds, on average 10 to 20%. You can even request your own odds, and you can get up to $300 in profit cash. Check it out. Go to go to ProfitX and use the code VSiN. Earn up to $200 in profit cash over your first month. $300, in your first month. Code VSiN.
I've seen Jacksonville picking an assortment of players at number 5 overall next week. Which position do they truly have the most interest in? We will ask Mia O'Brien, who covers a team for 1010XL in Jacksonville, next here on VSiN.